Thank you for joining us today for our virtual Meet the Expert session. My name is Morna, and I'm part of the Meet the Expert My World of Work Live team with Skills Development Scotland. My World of Work Live is all about helping you understand future careers and the skills that you might need to join those careers and sectors. In today's session, we're going to cover an overview of the life and chemical science sector here in Scotland. We're going to have a look at some of the opportunities within that sector, and I'm also going to introduce you to our experts for today, who are Zane and Robbie Neal from Symbiosis Pharmaceuticals. You're also going to have the opportunity to ask Zane and Robbie any questions about their career journey and the sector itself as we go through the session. I'd like to encourage you as much as possible to get involved throughout the session today, so please use the question and answer box that's to the right of your screen to ask us questions, and we'll try and answer as many as we possibly can during the session today. If you have a specific question for either Zane or Robbie, please just put their name before your question so we know who it's for. I'd also like to let you know that today's session is being recorded, and that's so that young people who couldn't make it onto the session today can still access the resource. So it will be available for everybody to watch on the My World of Work Live YouTube channel because it's in the public interest to do so. That means you can go back and rewatch everything that we've been talking about today. Also, please don't worry, everything you ask today can be anonymous if you prefer. You just select that option on the question and answer box. So before I introduce you to today's experts, let's just have a quick look at some of the information around the life and chemical science sector here in Scotland. So this is known as the labour market information. So there's approximately 230 chemical science companies in Scotland and around 770 life science companies in Scotland, with about 50,000 people working in those sectors collectively. So combined, both the life and chemical science sectors contribute about £1.1 billion worth to Scottish economy every year. It's been estimated that in about a 10-year gap from 2019 to 2029, there will be nearly 30,000 new jobs that will be available within the life and chemical science sector. So that will be predominantly in areas like science, engineering and production technicians. So it's really an extremely fast developing, constantly evolving sector and industry with loads of potential opportunities there. What we're going to be focusing on today and having a chat with Zane and Robbie about is an area within the life and chemical science sector called Advanced Therapy Medicinal Products, or ATMPs for short. Now, those sorts of products are used in things like cell therapy, tissue engineering, gene therapy, and a lot of those products are actually created using sort of high-value manufacturing techniques. So that's what Symbiosis is part of. Now, a recent study alongside ATMP bioprocessing has estimated that the sector growth in this region will be about just under 4,000 potential new jobs in the next 4 years or so. So that's quite an incredible opportunity. And it just goes to show that it's going to need so many more skilled people in the years to come as it continues to grow. So let me introduce you now to Zane and Robbie from Symbiosis, and they'll be able to give you a lot more information about their roles. But just to give you a wee outlook, Symbiosis Pharmaceuticals are a manufacturing organisation. Now, they're based out in Stirling, and they specialise in the manufacture of sterile vials. Now, these vials are very often used in things like clinical trials, and they're produced for commercial supply. So they might get a formulation in from a company, and then they mass produce it and they fill with these little sterile vials and then they send it off for commercial supply. So Zane is a process specialist. He was part of Symbiosis's graduate recruitment scheme and joined as a manufacturing technician about 3 years ago. Interestingly enough, though, he started out originally studying forensic science. So he's kind of changed a little bit direction, but he can explain a little bit more about that. And Robbie Neal is a manufacturing engineering technician. Now, he was recruited as an engineering apprentice and he attended college full-time as part of his course. So he was learning whilst being part of this course as well. So quite a nice different way that he joined the company too. And he actually completed his 3-year apprenticeship just last year and now is a fully qualified engineering technician. So without any further ado, I will let them explain a little bit more and properly about what they do. So I'm going to pass you over to Zane, first of all, if that's all right, if I can come to you first of all, Zane, and you can just kind of give us a wee bit of an introduction around your role and how you got there. And remember not to be daft like me and take yourself off mute.
Thanks very much, Mona, and point noted because I was about to start talking while on mute. Hello, everybody. Hope you're all staying safe. Yeah, so Mona quite rightly said that I originally studied a Bachelor of Science in Forensic Science, which was heavily focused on instrumental analytical chemistry. And then there was also a bit of biological analysis included within that course as well. After I graduated, I was still working part-time for 1 year in shops, where I've been working ever since high school, ever since I could start working. And then eventually I got my first full-time role in the life science sector as a manufacturing technician working for Collagen Solutions, who are based in Glasgow. Spent a couple of years at Collagen before I'd done a brief stint in the labs as well. So I worked for Scottish Water in the microbiology lab, doing just routine testing. Jumped a couple of different jobs in quite a short space of time, and eventually I came to Symbiosis as a manufacturing technician. I think I was here for about a year before I was promoted to the role that I am in now, which is the process specialist within the technical department of Symbiosis.
That's excellent, thank you. So you've had quite a journey there, sort of a few different bits and pieces, but I would imagine that it's given you a good grounding and a few different skills to sort of be transferable throughout your journey there. So that's great. Thank you, Zane. So if we can just swap over and have a wee chat with Robbie, and Robbie can introduce himself as well and tell us how he got to where he got. So nice to meet you, Robbie.
Yeah, how's it going? So I'm Robbie. I started here about 4 years ago. I started as an apprentice. I finished my apprenticeship last year, and I've been an engineering technician for about 18 months now. I'm still living the dream every day.
Very good, very good. What was it that sort of made you start into joining Symbiosis, or how did you actually get into the company?
So when I was in 6th year at school, I was looking at going to university. I was looking at studying electrical engineering, looking at the recruitment options once you qualify to finish a degree. I thought it would be better to do an apprenticeship and earn a bit of money while I was learning. So that was my thinking behind that one.
Excellent. Okay, well that's good to know. So that's maybe a nice sort of thank you for that, both of that. So that kind of gives everybody a little bit of an introduction to start off. So that's helped me kind of know a little bit more about you. So what we'll do is we'll just sort of dive straight in and we'll get some questions going. So if you've got a question for either Zane or Robbie, just pop them into the question and answer box, and we'll answer as many as we possibly can. So just sticking with you for the moment, Robbie. So see, as you said, what was it specifically about an apprenticeship that you thought would be better than going to university? Like, what was it that drove you to an apprenticeship?
I think the main thing with people that finish their university degrees is they don't have any hands-on practical experience. On the other hand, if you do an apprenticeship, you're hands-on the full time, you're getting practical experience, so that's a bit more beneficial. You can always go back at a later date and get your degree, but your hands-on experience is quite beneficial. So partly that and partly to earn what I was learning, I think.
Right, okay. So that's actually quite good to know, because I think maybe, exactly as you say, maybe everybody sort of assumes that you need to go to university, but university sometimes gives you more like a theoretical knowledge as opposed to you getting like a full, like hands-on, like actual real life work experience. So that's excellent to know there. Zane, we've just actually had a question, if I can just come to you. So we've had a question in from one of the schools. They're just wondering, sort of day to day, what do you do in your role?
Sure. So there's at least one meeting every day, be it a meeting with my colleagues or a meeting with the wider departments. Day to day, I'm basically liaising or communicating with our clients. We have a lot of different clients here at Symbiosis, so I'm either communicating by phone, by email, via video chat like we're doing now. And what I'm basically trying to do is try and essentially push these new projects along. So part of my role is to take the new projects that have been signed for Symbiosis and then try and translate them into Symbiosis systems and then integrate them within the business. So essentially I'm basically taking everything that the clients want, and I'm looking at what we can do and what we can't do, and then I'm writing documentation for them. So there's a lot of time spent day to day. There's a lot of time spent on Microsoft Word, and Microsoft Excel and Microsoft PowerPoint. So just a lot of the standard administration packages that I have no doubt that they'll be using in schools as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So would you say that your role is more office based, and maybe we can then sort of link that into like what's the difference between your role and Robbie's role, like if they're similar or do they have differences?
So my role is definitely office based. It's about 95% office based. There are opportunities for me to also do some of the hands-on practical work as well. So I can get gowned up and get involved with the manufacturing activities in the clean room, on occasion as well. So my role is actually quite varied. There's a lot going on, but yes, I'm based in the office majority of the time.
Okay, so maybe sort of if we see the difference maybe there with Robbie. Robbie, are you more like on the manufacturing line or floor, or I'm just sort of giving like, how would you sort of describe your line of work or your area of work to maybe the young people that are listening in?
I'm probably about 50-50. I've probably spent about 50% of the time at a desk, 50% of the time working on equipment. So there's a lot of paperwork goes in hand with a lot of stuff that you do. So you do,
Okay.
It's just the nature of the game, you spend a lot of time doing paperwork, but I quite like the hands-on stuff. It is quite good being hands-on.
Yeah, so I've got this impression in my head, like just when Zane mentioned something about clean rooms, about you just all of you wandering around just bedecked in these like hazmat suits with the big visors on and everything. Is it like that, or am I just sort of thinking about the films?
No, it definitely is like that. So even to get in, your lab coats, gloves before you even step in the door, and then by the time you're into the clean room, you're wearing 3 pairs of gloves, 2 suits, all sorts. It's proper. I don't know how to describe it. It's like Homer Simpson inside his cabinet where he puts his hands inside his cabinet. That's probably the best way to describe it.
Oh my goodness. Okay. We've actually had a question specifically just come in for you, Robbie. So I'll just stick with you for the moment. Some of the young people are just asking, what's been the most challenging part of your apprenticeship so far?
That's a good question. It's probably quite a few different things, but it's probably say the jump from being an apprentice to technician was probably the most challenging bit, kind of taking on a lot more responsibility and a lot more tasks and stuff like that. That was like the big jump up.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably say that.
So is that something that was it like a new experience being given all this responsibility, or was it just sort of trying to sort of settle into the role in that sense?
It's more just you're not doing your college work anymore and you're just entirely focused on all the tasks in the business, so it's more more responsibility, I'd say.
Ah, right, okay. Gosh, well, you must have had to be able to like time management and also having like a good balance between focusing on your studies and your work with college and with Symbiosis as well. That's, gosh, bit of a multitasker there, Robbie.
The apprenticeship's quite good because you go full-time college for your first year, and then after that you're day release, which means you get 1 day a week to do your college work basically. So it isn't as bad as it sounds.
Oh, okay, that's good. Excellent. Right, Zane, I've actually just had a question come in specifically for you. So the school are wondering, obviously you'd had a little bit of a change, so they're wondering, why did you move away from forensics then? Obviously you'd sort of started on forensic science, so why did you move away from that?
Straight answer is it's actually quite difficult to get a job as a forensic scientist in Britain at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
usually, if you want to follow that path, you would go through the police to begin with on a junior level, and then work your way into that role. There isn't really a lot of jobs going. It's just now kind of more so moved away from your kind of benchtop science type forensic role, and it's more so like cyber security and digital forensics. So a lot of tracing and coding, which my qualification didn't really gear me for. The main part of my qualification was essentially chemistry. It was a lot of analytical chemistry and biology, and a lot of the work was done in a forensic setting. So you do a lab work that was basically, the scenario was essentially you were trying to determine the concentration of a substance in a spiked beverage. So that's how everything was written. So I didn't really have. I went to university to study the degree, following on from college, just because I had a passion for science, and I really liked the. I went to Glasgow Caledonian, so I really liked the layout of the campus. So I knew going into the degree that there was actually other options out with the forensic course as well. And if you read the university prospectuses, you'll see that you're not just kind of confined to that role, that you're to one role from your degree. There's a lot of different options for you, because there's a lot of transferable skills, like you were saying before, Morna.
Yeah.
So eventually, I kind of fell into the life science sector. I got my first job at Collagen. So I think I applied for that role, just looking at the requirements of the role, looking at what the business done, and then I think I went for an interview, and I got that job, and it was my first full-time job. So I was definitely going to accept it once I was offered the role.
Excellent. Okay, fantastic. We've got quite a few questions coming through here. So just because I'll stick with you, Zane, just because we're sort of got the camera on you at the moment, but I can ask Robbie as well what his thoughts on it are. The pupils are just asking, what subjects do you think would be useful to take at school for the career that you've both entered into?
Sure. So for my career, obviously, chemistry, biology, physics would also. I didn't actually do physics at school. However, looking back, I wish I'd done. I think very, very important, and it's sort of a kind of cliche, but maths and English is incredibly important for my role. And you maybe take it for granted at the time when you're at school, but if you can kind of follow up on both those subjects to kind of like a really good, having a really good grasp of kind of written English, and kind of learning to use mathematics every day. Not losing like the ability to kind of to use numbers and deal with numbers every day. It sounds boring, but maths and English are very important, and they definitely help in my role for different tasks, and just kind of navigating problems more so as well.
Okay.
So the sciences, your maths, your English, and I would say that's it. You could probably throw in IT, but I wouldn't really say that's necessarily compulsory. I think computer, any IT work or administration or computer science, you can kind of build on that after you leave school, through various kind of side courses, or just through working in general. You'll kind of develop those IT abilities that you need to kind of navigate your role.
Yeah, I think it's the same. It's like the more you use something, the more sort of confident you become with it. I would say I'm not like, I don't love IT, if I'm being honest about it, but like the more that you use it, you get a bit more confident with it. So just Robbie, what were your thoughts? Are you in agreement with the subjects that you feel that Zane's mentioned, like your sciences and things, but obviously is that something that you also needed to do the apprenticeship, for example, obviously because you were slightly different? So what are your thoughts on it?
I wouldn't say it's needed. It's definitely beneficial. I done physics at school, so I was quite good with the circuits. So that's why I picked electrical engineering. That's why I ended up down that route. But again, as Zane said, maths and English are pretty important. I would say that all skills are transferable, so it doesn't really matter entirely as much what subjects you do at school, as long as you're applying them to different stuff.
Excellent. Yeah, that's it exactly. Like, sometimes people are maybe more focused on subjects, but maybe sort of touching on the skills there. What sort of skills do you think are most beneficial and useful in your roles then? What do you think, Robbie?
For this kind of industry, definitely your hard working's a good skill to have, and then your attention to detail, because of the kind of documentation we're doing. That's quite thorough and meticulous, so your documents, to make sure there's no mistakes. So I'd probably agree with that, just being meticulous.
That's a good one. Yeah, I will quite happily admit that I'm slightly OCD when it comes to that. Like, I hate reading a book and then you're just like, oh, how did that get past the editor? Like, there's a mistake there. So that's good to know. Actually, question potentially for both of you. So I'll stick with you there, Robbie. Now, you don't have to give us the actual figure, either of you, but we have had a question to do with how much can you earn in the roles or in the sector that you are in?
So I'm only 22, so I'm still a technician, but even at 22, I'd say by the time you factor in my overtime and other stuff, I'm probably over 30,000, which is pretty good for something in their 20s. So I'm not sure if Zane will answer, but the industry is quite well paid.
Excellent, that's good. What about you, Zane? We don't have to, you can sort of give us a ballpark figure if you want to.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, I think I was on 22 when I started as a technician. I think that was roughly the same starting salary for collagen as well. As a manufacturing technician, I'm just under 30,000 now. I don't really know what the most would be in my department as my role. If you're moving up from my role, you would be a manager and then director of technical services, I believe. So I don't know, I would say probably kind of upwards of maybe 40, 45
Okay.
grand. I think that's probably more on the that's probably me being like a glass kind of half full kind of person, but
that's a nice way to look at it, though. That's excellent. I actually was speaking to somebody within this sort of sector again, and she had an excellent way about looking at it. She said that the way, in terms of thinking about what she earns, is she was like, I want to earn the same amount as my age. I was like, I'm gonna have that throughout the rest of my life. That's gonna be my aim, is to always earn my age. So that's what I'm going to focus on. So I'm wondering, again, this is a question actually that could be, it's said for Zane, but I'm wondering it could actually be for both of you, because the pupils are just asking, what do you think helped you the most to get the job at Symbiosis? So we'll start with you, Zane.
Sure. Good question, and it's a really easy one to answer. At Symbiosis, it was actually my work experience more than anything else, more than the degree, more than any of the academics. It was what I have done in my role, working to get me the role at Symbiosis, and that counts for the promotion as well. So to get my initial role as a manufacturing technician, it was based on everything I'd done in this industry. I won't delve too much into kind of the specifics, because now we'd be moving into like industry specific tasks, but a lot of that helped. A lot of the questions were revolved around what I'd done in work, as opposed to how my grades looked and what I had achieved academically. So yeah, it's definitely definitely a work experience. It's hard if you don't have any experience. I know that. I think everybody knows that. If you don't have any experience, it is difficult. But even if you've got a part-time experience working in a shop or a cafe, that's also an advantage as well. So yeah.
That's good advice, actually, because I think we all know how difficult it is when it says that you need like 5 years worth of experience, and you're like, well, I'm just starting out. How do I get that? But that's really good that even something like a good work ethic and having communications and organizational just from working in a shop is something that's going to help you. So
Well, yeah, I mean, just to elaborate on that, what you just mentioned there about work ethic's really, really important, because if you don't have any experience and someone's looking to hire you and you're compared to somebody who's got experience, they would actually look at you favourably if you were to say to them that you're prepared to be flexible in your working pattern, if you are prepared to stay on a wee bit extra to get the task done. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, they're kind of looking to hire somebody who's going to contribute to their business. And you could have a lot of the qualifications, or you could even have the work experience, but if you don't show kind of your flexibility or how you solve problems is a big one. If you don't show like your aptitude to solving problems, you know, if you can say to somebody, I'm very, very calm if something happens, if something untoward occurs during work, or if an issue arises, I know I've got a process kind of mentally on how I deal with that,
right, yeah.
in order to get us back in a level of control. So you would actually be looked on more favourably without the experience, as opposed to somebody who's got the experience but kind of demonstrates a lack of demonstrates kind of like a lack of like flexibility, or doesn't really integrate too well with their colleagues. I believe anyway. I think there's a lot more to go a lot more to it than just kind of like what you see on paper.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's sound advice. That's really, really good advice. That kind of actually ties in slightly from one of the questions that I've got in from one of the schools. So I'll put this to Robbie first of all and see what he says, if that's all right. The pupils are just wondering, has there ever been a time where you've ever made an error or a mistake at work? And how did you deal with it? Like, was it a bad one? And you know, was it a disaster? Or well, that's just me adding that, they didn't ask that. But they're just how do you deal with when something goes wrong, for example?
There's definitely been a few. Being an engineer, and any equipment failures, it's me that's got to go and sort them. So that's kind of how you learn stuff, is when stuff breaks and you get failures, you can end up learning a bit more from it. You want a particular example, I would probably say at times you get a power cut. For example, we've got a big battery that we use to power a building, but if that battery runs down, we've got to start shutting down systems. So it's quite hectic and it's stressful, but it's good experience. So I'd say things like that can kind of help to help you a bit as well.
Sort of throw you in at the deep end and see how you cope.
Aye, pretty much. That's the best way of putting it.
Do they ever do it, actually, just when you said that, do they ever do sort of like test practices of equipment failures, you know, like in like a pilot scenario where they would be like, you know, to see how you coped in a crash? Like, did they ever deliberately switch off the machine to see how you cope with it?
Nah, it's never happened. We get enough of the real breakdowns that we're kind of kept busy, I think.
Well, at least you're honest about it. That's really good. So that was a really good question, actually. I quite like that one. So what sort of skills, Robbie, do you think you use most in your day-to-day job?
Definitely a lot of engineering skills. See, like your fault finding. I know it's maybe not particularly at school. I don't know if you do engineering science still, but a lot of your kind of looking at technical drawings and stuff like that. I do quite a lot of that. And you're just looking up, say for example, a part breaks in a bit of kit, and I've got to look in the manual, find out what part it is, where I can get it from. So even your IT stuff comes into it, like using your computer to go and source parts from different suppliers and all sorts.
Excellent. Okay, really good. Just another question here. I'll just ask, because again, because you work alongside but slightly separately, so maybe Zane's got an answer as well, but I'll ask Robbie first of all. Some of the schools are just wondering, do you get the opportunity to travel, well, maybe before COVID, but do you get the opportunity to travel with your roles and, you know, work alongside other pharmaceutical companies?
You do sometimes, so not often for engineering, I would say, but occasionally we'll buy a new bit of kit, and before we buy it, we've got to go down and check it out and make sure it's functioning before we buy it. So there's times where things like that come up, but it's not as often for engineering. Definitely other clients who've got business development and that, they're always out and about and meeting clients and all sorts. I don't know if Zane's got anything to add to that.
You've been put on the spot there, Zane. What about you?
No, there isn't. Well, bar the clients that we work with, and then if, like Robbie said, we have suppliers for materials and equipment, so we'll talk to them quite a lot as well. They might come on site and might show off the new piece of kit that they've got, and then we can sit there and like assess it and maybe ask them questions, because we at the end of the day, for Symbiosis, we need to know that what they're providing will be suitable for our systems. Yeah, Robbie hit the nail on the head. If you want to travel, business development is your sales is where you want to be. Yeah, there's a lot of traveling there. You've got your expenses. I think you're only entitled to one alcoholic beverage per trip. I'm not too sure, but yeah, that's essentially where you'd want to be if you.
That's where you want to be, right? Good to know. Good to know for maybe future for our young people then for their. So, and actually, a very good question that's coming in. Obviously, sometimes within something like STEM-related sectors, there's very often maybe like a gender imbalance. So we've actually had a really good question coming in, like I suppose within Symbiosis, we could say what's the gender balance within Symbiosis like, and maybe how do you feel, is it something that's still an issue within STEM-related sectors, or how do you think it's changing? We'll start with you, Zane.
Sure. So I can only answer this question from my own experience. At Symbiosis, I think the balance, funnily enough, I think there's more women here than men.
Okay.
Robbie, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's more women here than men, and I believe that majority of the heads of management are all women as well. I've never really thought about it too much, and that's not really a cop-out. I think the STEM sector and the pharmaceutical industry is actually really, really good for the addressing the gender imbalance. As I said, it's just something that's come naturally to me. So in my working life, where I've worked in this industry, there's been an abundance of women that I've worked with above me and on the same level as me, and we've worked quite close together. And it's just not really something that I've really thought about too much until somebody asks the question. So no, I mean, definitely, I think, and this is also when I've been working blue collar. So if I'm in the clean rooms or I'm working in the lab, women aren't just confined to the offices or sitting at a desk. They will also. I've worked with so many women just on the floor, on the shop floor, essentially, carrying out all the practical work as well.
That's good to know. So you think there's quite a good balance there between everybody?
No, the balance is really good. I think there's a lot of prospects for women in this industry. I can't speak for other industries or sectors, but from my own experience, and I can't speak for women either, but from my own experience, I think on the outset that it looks really, really good. If you want to get into specifics, you need to ask, one of them about how they feel in terms of in the workplace, and in terms of their positions. But as I said, from my observations, I think the balance is really, really good, especially at Symbiosis as well.
Wonderful. That's good. That's given us a nice insight there. Excellent. I'm just wondering what could be our next question. We've got quite a few coming in. And also just conscious of the time actually as well. So this might actually have to be our last one for both of you. So I think we'll put it to Robbie first, because he's been sitting there quietly in the wings, thinks he's getting away with it. So we've had quite a good question coming in about what do you see yourself doing in the future? Like what, do you have a next step in your career that you would like to do, or is there somewhere that you see yourself going or moving into? What do you see yourself doing as the next part of your career journey?
I've definitely looked at maybe doing some further education. That's something I'm in the process of discussing now, but you're always learning, so I'm just trying to continue adding to that and continue building my skills. So I never got my degree because I just finished my apprenticeship, so I'm maybe looking at going and pursuing uni as an option. So that's probably my next step, is looking to get further education.
Super. And would you be thinking to go back and maybe sort of picking up your electronic engineering again, or is there something completely different that you were interested in doing?
No, I'll just continue on with engineering there. I might look to do it. I'm still looking at the options, but there's a few different ways you can go about it. You can do it through the workplace, you can do it in your own time. There's loads of different options. So I'm in the process of speccing that one out, I think.
Excellent, excellent. Is there anything within Symbiosis you think, oh, that's the next step, or I'm going to see if I can get that person's job next year, or anything like that?
So I've been a technician for 18 months now, so I'm probably going to look to move up to senior technician in the next near future anyway. So that's my next step, I think, career-wise.
Fantastic, excellent. And what about you, Zane? Are you sort of thinking about things in the future, like where you see your career heading?
Yeah, no, I'm always thinking about it. I think I'm looking to develop my skills that I have. I mean, staying in the department I work in, which is the technical services, there's scope to expand this department and take on new roles, kind of in terms of assessing projects or kind of procurement, R&D. So I'm kind of looking to take kind of the skills that I've got and just kind of build on them. So I'd be moving laterally as opposed to moving vertically. For me, anyway.
Well, that's good. So you just, like, is it something that you would quite like to stay within the sector, or like do you see yourself moving to another company, or is Symbiosis sort of giving you everything that you kind of want for the moment?
The latter. Symbiosis is kind of this is where I'd be settled here for the time being. So yeah, I think I would definitely be staying within the sector that I'm in, because that's what I know. But you should always keep your options open wherever you are, because you don't know how your life's going to pan out, and your values might change, and your aspirations might change as well. So, and with working in science, and the options are just really vast. There's a lot of different roles that you can undertake.
Excellent. I think that's a fantastic thing to finish on there. Really good sound advice there from you, Zane. Thank you very much. And thank you to Robbie as well. So unfortunately, that's us come to the end of the session today. So I want to say a massive thank you again to both Zane and Robbie for taking the time to join us today within their very busy schedules. And that's given us a really good insight, not only into their roles, but also within the sector in general, within life and chemical sciences. So I found it really interesting. I hope you did as well. It was quite hilarious to think that before you go into a room, you have to put on 3 pairs of gloves in some areas. So that was really good. If you need any more information, advice, guidance on all things career related, just have a chat with your school's careers advisor, because they'll be able to give you a lot of good information. But you can also find out more about careers on our website, which is myworldofwork.co.uk. You'll find loads of information there that can help you make choices about your career. And maybe if you're needing some inspiration about what you'd quite like to do, there's also plenty of tools that will help you understand your strengths, and there's lots of job profiles for you to have a look at as well. If you want to learn any more about Scotland's sectors or how to get into any of these areas of work, check out the apprenticeship.scot website. So that gives you an idea of all the different apprenticeships that you can do within these different sectors. And I'll just mention a few of those in just a second. And there's also a website called digitalworld.net. So that kind of gives you an idea of things to do with like digital technology. But exactly what Zane was saying, some of these things will be connected, because obviously he started out in forensics and he's moved forwards, and there was even like the digital aspect of forensics now. So things are changing, and science and STEM is such a massive industry that there's loads of avenues you can take there as well. So some examples of the apprenticeships that are available: you can do a foundation apprenticeship in something called scientific technologies, and that's an excellent way to start a career learning about the benefits of STEM and how that can continue to expand your professional development and your potential. You can do a modern apprenticeship in industrial applications, and that's where you'll learn about the specialist manufacturing techniques that Zane and Robbie use as part of their role pharmaceuticals within Symbiosis and how Symbiosis use it as well. So across all number of sectors, not just in life sciences. You can also do a modern apprenticeship in life science and related science industries, and there's also a technical aspect to that. And that's if you're interested in healthcare or research. So you could be part of the team contributing to Scotland's advancement in medical research and technology. As I mentioned before at the very beginning of the session, it has been recorded, so you can view it as many times as you want to at a later date. And also please have a little look at the list of future sessions that we have coming up over the next few months. So I hope you can join us for some of them. So we've got a few of our websites there listed for you, and that's where you can find about the future sessions. So finally, I want to say a massive thank you once again to Zane and Robbie. Thank you out there to all you joining us today. So take care and have a lovely rest of your day. Thanks very much. See you later. Bye.